Right, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Streaky podcast. Today, like I said before, we're going to go and talk about the divorce, but we're also going to talk about how to be happy, especially after being in an abusive relationship. So, without any pause or hesitation, let's get straight into this. My name is Streaky. You may know me, but please don't let on who I am. I want to keep everything confidential and protect everybody. Welcome to the Streaky podcast. I'm not your average man. So how, after being in an abusive relationship, am I going to look into getting happy? I struggled with this for years, and it was an epiphany that came to me that I wasn't happy. I was stuck. I was dreading going home. Work was my only outlay, and so was my son, who I loved dearly. But going home was dreadful. I had no outlay, no sports. I'd given that up. No, everything was seeming to go wrong. And I've been getting stuck in more of a rut. And I couldn't talk to the then wife because she just wanted other things, bigger house, bigger car, and everything else. The grass is greener on the other side, like I said before. But we've got to this point now where we're splitting up. She's gone. She's living up the road, only 500 yards up the road, would you believe? Because she wanted me close to her son, which I thought was great at the time, for her and my son, because of the joint parenting, which is excellent. So, and now I can start rebuilding the way I wanted to. But then the divorce comes in, and oh my God, do they make their money. But like I said before, I was happy to pay that. Spousal maintenance, paying that. I was broke, but I was starting to build a new life. I got to my point now where I was believing that I can rebuild now. I had purpose. So from being in that valley, I was now climbing out. I was moving myself forward, and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Don't worry about money. Money comes and goes, is what I believed. And we move forward. Yes, splitting up with someone from an abusive relationship was hard because the abuse continued. I'd get phone calls. She would try to get back into the house quite a lot. And we'd have arguments about everything. It would end up parents' evenings at my son's school. I had to book separately because when I'd ask a teacher a question, she would talk over me and tell me I was wrong. So we ended up having separate parents' evenings, which was great. I had time with the teacher and had time to figure out what was going on. My son would be with me. He'd hang around afterwards for his mum and do the same thing, so she could ask different questions. And it worked. So things were going in the right direction. Yes, I've gone through an abusive relationship. Money's going downhill. But I was starting to build my own happiness because I can see the future and see purpose. And I think that's the way to go forward. I can't understand people that stay in a relationship and they're not happy. Now looking back, at the time I was in that relationship for 7 years, and I don't know how I got the strength to get out, but I did, and luckily I'm a different person now, and I like to look back and review. I've got a friend. They're only young, early 20s, and they're in the same kind of relationship. I can see from the outside that neither of them are happy. They moan about each other. They go constantly moaning. There doesn't seem to be any love there, and I can't figure out why. And I talk to them about it, but they would rather be together than single. I don't know how people see being single as unhappiness. So But that's their story. I was single at this point now, afterwards, and I was happy because I had my control back. I started to do my sport. I was seeing my boy with better time and quality, shall we say. So, admittedly, it was only half the week, so I did for 2 days and every other weekend, where his mother had him for 2 days and every other weekend. So, which was a lot of up and down for him, but it was the best way to get through this situation. So, my happiness was because I felt that I had to put myself first. Now, this is the struggle I felt when I was in the relationship. If I put myself first, I felt like I was letting down my then wife and my son and everything I'd built before. It was like I thought I'd built something and I was letting go. But now looking back, what I built, the foundations were not there. It was on sand. It was not right. I think where we went from meeting and getting together quickly, getting a flat, getting married, having a child, new car, moving away from where we were brought up, we moved so fast through everything. It was like, I'm not going to say society pushed us to do what we thought was the right thing, but we just went through the motions. We really did. And when it got to a point where we had our own house and we were settling down and there was no more hurdles to jump over. No, the wedding had been done. We were married. We had a child, had a house. I had moved up to the top of my work. I was a director in a company. We figured out that when we sat down together, we didn't have things in common. We didn't actually like each other, which is sad to hear at the time. But I think we got together at what was a celebration after I was a coach for a team and we'd just won a playoff game. And then we went out afterwards and we were on a high, where I was very alpha male because I was the head coach at the time. And I think she was attracted to that. And I was on a high because of winning. And yeah, I think we got caught up in the moment. And then we carried on trying to have the same kind of moment, always wanting the high. But a high is not happiness. Yeah, it's a great feeling at the time, a high, but it is not happiness for life. And some people need to step back, as I should have, and evaluate that. But we carried on. We brought a new life into this world, which was great. It's the only good thing I look back on. And I do look back. I really evaluate. I have done since I was a child. When I was in year 8 secondary school, I remember trying to work out why I was slightly bullied, but the people that bully, or the stronger kids, you see, not the bulliers, but the stronger kids, there's always that group of kids, they're known to be strong and not to be messed with. But I never saw them fight. I never saw them argue. And I used to sit there and evaluate, how do they do it? And it was the confidence they portray. They give the confidence, they say the right things. Yes, I must admit, I tried to run my mouth off a few times and got beaten up because of it. Silly me, but it was a test. It's funny, because the kid I got beaten up by became one of my good mates at school afterwards. But it was to be the confident with people. And I then found out then in 6th form, I had an accident and broke my leg, missed my exams, had to drop down a year. Now, I was still the same kid, but I dropped down. I'm older now, so I'm 15, 16, of course. But dropping down a year helped me out with so much. The confidence. The girls in the year were then interested, where in my previous year they weren't. I was the only one that had a car, and it gave me this boost. when I went through my sport and then got with my now ex-wife, the confidence slowly drained away from me. I can't understand where it went now looking back. At the time, I'd never noticed it. But it was little things that would change. And you don't notice from one day to the next. But slowly ebbing away my confidence and my drive. And in the end, my purpose. I pushed from work to get more money to try and help us out at home and make her proud, I suppose, at the time, and give her what I believe she wanted, because she always spoke about that she wanted a bigger house. She loved a house outside of town that she knew. She wanted this big car. I think it was a Bentley she loved. So I was striving for more work, but she would spend that money constantly. And now looking back, and like I said in previous episodes, how the police officer said, the coercion and the control she had, especially of the money and my time, I didn't see any of it. I was earning good money and it was going. So I was not in a happy place. But that point when she walked out was like an epiphany to me that I need to work on myself. I think if she didn't walk out, there could be the thing that I carried on. But that time on my own, I was able to evaluate that I haven't spoke to my mum in ages. I didn't see my sister, I didn't see my friends. I had a house around me that was in disrepair. I had no money in the bank account, and I was not happy. But am I happy now? Hell yeah. Yeah, I really am. I have purpose. I have everything I want in life. I love my children. I love my wife now. It's not the same one. And I find it strange that people don't sit there and evaluate. I'm going to talk about another friend of mine. We had a friend over, and they were in a much worse position than me. They had children. They were living in a car after moving away from an abusive relationship. And now they live in a foreign country. They've got the job they've always wanted. They haven't got no money, but they're happy. They really are. And I said to her, do you look back and are you proud of what you've done? And she said, no. What have I got to be proud of? I said, so you were living in a car with your kids. You survived that. You still have your kids. You now live in a foreign country. No one knows the hard work you've put in to get where you are. And she smiled. I don't think anyone had ever spoke to her like this before. But the fact that she'd progressed so far, and she agreed, she's happy. I said to her, be proud of what you are. Be proud of what you've done. People always want to know how to get happy, because there's a lot of things in this life at the moment that's making people sad. I know they say we're now the Instagram generation, so we see the pictures. We see the great pictures of people having fun, people at the best beach, best sunshine, best this, best that, whatever. But a photograph is only a split second. We don't see the hard work people get to go to there. We don't see the bad things behind the camera. We don't see the people going, smile, you're on camera now. This is a bad moment for lots of people, because people are looking at these photographs and they're judging themselves on that. I want to be there. Well, it's nice you want to be there. Start with your first steps. Look at what you've got, where you are, what you want to change, and work hard. Just put into what you want. If you want to get out of it, all these big things, then you need to put into it. Now, the things I went through to get where I am now, looking back at the relationship, were hard. I was in a tough job, like I said, with a house falling down around me, and I made the decision, I need to start again. I put myself first because I thought that is what would bring me happiness. So I got the divorce. I was actually on holiday when the divorce came through 7-8 months later, and I remember skipping down the high street. But from then on, I got a divorce. I then decided my happiness is in my son and me. So I put my son first, because even though I got out of an abusive relationship, I started to notice that coercive behaviour from my ex-wife transferred onto him. So he was telling me there was times that he would get up in the morning for school. She wouldn't get out of bed. She would scream down to him to feed the cats, bring me up this, do your own breakfast from her bed. Now, he was 6, 7 at the time. And it was just like the guilt I had was uncontrollable, because I had left that abusive relationship, even though I still had the abusive phone calls, and trying to say I did this, I did that, which was going to happen, but it was easier to handle because it was now at arm's length for me. Now was transferring onto my son. Now, of course, I have no evidence of this at the time other than what he said, and the courts were unable to take his opinion and his choices until he was 11. So all I could do was try to support him, and I spoke to the school. The school were in agreement that something needed to be done, and they brought him counselling sessions, which helped him beyond belief, because I think from everything that was going on, it gave him anxiety, which he still suffers with nowadays, even though he's now into his teenage years and soon becoming an adult. God, wow, that makes me feel old. Yeah. But they brought in counselling, and it was the counselling that gave him the strength to continue his education. He done awesomely, and he continued through. So, but did it give him the happiness? Yes, it did in the end, because the counselling gave him the strength to, in the end, say that he wanted to move in with me full time. So, is he happy now? I believe he is. He's in a college course doing what he wants to do. He's working, which is crazy, and he's moved forward to what he wants to be, and I'm very proud of him, as you can probably tell. So, but for me, my happiness was coming because I'd put now the foundations in place that I wanted to move forward with. So, and like I was talking to my friend there, I look back now and I'm proud of where I've stood. I know pride is one of the 7 sins, but you've got to be happy that, one, I'm moved from that relationship and I've built what I have now to give myself a purpose. So I love the lady I'm living with now and married to now. My kids are awesome, and even though I ferry them around everywhere all the time, to see them smile gives me the fulfillment. I'm in a job where I have more of an impact, and have more control, and have time where I can go and pick my kids up from school if needs be. So I have this purpose to move forward, and it has given me happiness and a new house, a house that's not falling down around me. Still don't have no money, but that's a different story completely. And in a later podcast, I will go into what I'm doing work-wise, because I went from being employed to being a director to setting up on my own as a freelance now to trying to set up a company to be entrepreneur, but we'll keep that one quiet at the moment so you can hear later on. But truthfully, my thing to you guys is, if you're in an abusive relationship, even if you don't know it's abuse, because I didn't at the time, just evaluate, am I happy? Do I have a connection with my partner? My partner now, I can sit down and we can talk for hours about everything, anything. I don't keep any secrets from her. She doesn't keep secrets from me. My ex-wife used to put up barriers around her. I said to her one day, why do you keep barriers around you like that? And she said, because I don't trust you. We'd been together 5-6 years. So it was crazy. She would still have fantasies about other men, even people that she knew, not just celebrities. But she wouldn't talk to me about it, and she wouldn't talk to her about any worries that she had in life about anything, because she didn't trust me. So, and that's the way our relationship was. I was a driver and I brought the money in for her. That's how it looked to me anyway. She might have a different story, and she's not here to say that, and I shouldn't be that biased. But the way I felt at the time hurt, and I can look back now and see the hurt. But do I hold grudges? That's a question I get asked quite a lot. Towards the ex-wife, no, I don't. I don't hold a grudge against her for the way she treated me. I think we got together way too quick, and things got out of hand, and we should have stopped to evaluate. I hold a little grudge for the way she treated my son, because I don't believe she put him to the front of her thoughts, whereas I put my children first. I come second, but my children must come first, because they're children. They need guidance, they need help, and they need support. And I think that was justified by the fact that it was my son that made the decision to move away from her without any input from us. We actually panicked when he told us. So, do I regret my relationship with her? That's a hard one. I don't regret having my son. So I always look back at 7 years and go, it was worth it for him. But I do regret buying the house we did, because it was run down, it's horrible, and we never fixed it. I do regret getting married. I didn't see the point of that, and we lost a lot of money doing that. And then of course I lost a lot of money on divorce of it. And I do look back at my 20s and now realise that being in your 20s nowadays is not when you should set up for life. I still believe, and please tell me if I'm wrong and your thoughts on this. There's comments down below, and if you want to subscribe and listen to more and then put more comments, that'd be great. I'd love to have debates and talk it out. But your 20s, I believe, are still a building phase. I don't agree that you go from being a youth, to 16, I'd say, into a teenager, when you're building from being a youth to an adult in 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years, up to 21. And then suddenly when you're 21, you've got to start having kids and getting married. If I'd have that time again, I would look back and say, no, let's learn. Use my 20s to learn still. So you can't set up your life in 3 or 4 years' time. You need to spend a decade doing this. And that's not just marriage and kids and house. It includes work and what you want to do with your life. Now I have a teenager that's in that bracket. I can look at him and say, I can understand how you don't know what you want to do in life. Some of the best people I know that are 40, 50 still don't know what they're doing in life and what they want to do. They're just getting through. use your 20s, please. Please, I'm begging you, to build, okay? Because after that, from 30s onwards, you could have another 70 years, okay? If you make the mistakes I did and jump in that early and get everything done, it suddenly gets to a point where you're actually going, oh, hang on, this isn't what I wanted to do. This isn't the partner I want to be with. This isn't the house I wanted to be in. But you've done it all too quickly, and you end up in a place where you're not happy. And believe me, this life, I believe, should all be about happiness. What are we put on this planet for? So, if we are put on this planet, because in the end, it's a small percentage that we're even alive and made it this far. So it really is. But again, in another podcast, I've got to talk about that, because there's other tragedies I've had in my life. There's my thoughts on religion and everything. So I'm going to try and take you through everything that I've learned up to my age now. And hopefully, I can help people. Because I don't want other people to be stuck like I was, to be stuck like the youngsters I spoke about are, and not to be able to look at yourself and say, am I happy? Where do I want to be? Because let's all do the deathbed test. If you got hit by a bus tomorrow and was on your deathbed, would you look back at your life and say, yeah, I've done the best I can, I was happy, I'm happy now? Because most people would say no. And if you say no, there's only one person that can change that, and that is you. Because in my eyes, happiness is a choice. And choose to find it. Don't worry about the highs. Like I said before, the highs come and go. But happiness is long term. And don't get me wrong, happiness isn't always big smiles. It's hard work. But it is worth it to get it. But when you've got it, you've got to work hard at it to keep it. And I'm hoping I can then portray this onto my children that can do exactly the same, because in the end, I don't care if they make it as a big CEO, Prime Minister, ruling the world, or winning the gold medal, whatever, okay? That's the top notches of that. I want them happy. If they go for a gold medal, there's the problem afterwards of what do you do afterwards, because I've heard that can be quite a high drop, shall we say, afterwards mentally. So please take my podcast, think about your purpose and happiness, and move forward. Now, please do, like I said before, subscribe, because I'm going to try and get this podcast out every month if possible. So if I get more time, I'll try and do some more. And please, debate with me. I love debate. So I can be wrong, I'm human, but I love to put over my opinions and hear your opinions, because that is the only way in this world that we learn and progress. Okay? I have had quite a few on Twitter already discussing religion and happiness. So I'm not into telling you you're wrong. I'll never do that. But I will say my point of view and then learn from yours. So do find me on Twitter. Do comment on the YouTube channel that we've got here. And hopefully in the future we'll look to get onto other podcast providers. So you can subscribe, comment, and move forward from there. Now, if you've got any questions, do post them up. What I'll do is next podcast, I'll answer as many questions as I can. If I haven't got many questions, then I'm going to move on to the next bit of the story of my life and see where we go from there. Right. with that, I'm going to draw close to this. It's been lovely having this time with you all. And bring on episode 4. Thank you. Bye-bye.